My name's Luis Mora Jr. and this is my '74 Chevrolet C10 pickup. It is well, a lot of people call it burnt orange, but it's actually like a glacier bronze and white. It's about 80% original as far as paint goes. When I did some work on the body, I had to replace the fenders up front, so I blended them in as best I could. I'm no body or paint guy, but learn as you go. It does have the original 350 engine with the 2-barrel carburetor, 350 transmission, all stock, matching numbers. It's sitting on a 2.4 drop with 20-inch Riddlers all the way around. Interior-wise, it's just something I kind of had to throw together last minute. I'd ran out of funds and paint, and this is kind of the colors I had in my shop at the time. I do plan on getting it redone the right way eventually. When funds allow and time allows, just right now I'm just enjoying it. So I was born here in Lubbock, Texas. About a couple years later after I was born, my parents decided to move here into the small town of Idalou, which is just about 10 miles outside of Lubbock. And I've pretty much been here all my life. Got married and raised my family, and my kids go to the same school I go. Some of them had the same teachers I had. Growing up, we didn't grow up wealthy or rich. My dad worked as a farmhand for most of his life. This truck in particular, he used in the farm. That's why the reasons I had to do a lot of body work for the rust and had to replace fenders. And, the bed in the back, he used to throw all these irrigation pipes and all sorts of stuff back there. And the reason a lot of the paint is rubbed off is, he used to carry one of these little red rags with him all the time. And I currently carry this myself. And, he would wipe down the dirt and the dust off this truck. Every chance he get, he never liked to see it dirty. So a lot of this patina that's off of it, that's his handiwork. He did that just with his little red rag and just wiping this thing down, just over time, so. But yeah, growing up, like I said, we lived out in the farm. I think we moved into town one time, then my parents didn't like the noise and stuff, so we ended up moving back out to La Rancho, and that's where we lived for the most part until, I grew up and got into high school, and then we eventually moved a little bit closer into town, but we're still out there, so. I think one of the best childhood memories of this thing was when my dad taught me how to drive. I learned how to drive in this truck, and living out there in the farm, nobody's going to bother you. There's not going to be cops or anything. So I remember sitting, my dad's lap and him telling me, steer straight, keep it straight, don't swerve off to the side or nothing, I was really nervous because first time driving, but my dad kept me calm. He's the one that showed me how to drive. I want to say that's probably one of my best memories that I've had in this truck is, my dad teaching me how to do that. And then, learning how to work on cars. He would work on this thing, and he'd call me out, and, I'd help him work on this. And as some of us know, when we were younger, we had to get the tools and stuff. What happens if we didn't grab the right one. So, I don't got to explain that part to you, but those are all fond memories that I'll cherish forever with my dad. So, I think when I was younger, I think like a lot of people out there, you go into the toy store and you find that little Hot Wheel car out there sitting on the peg, and you just can't get your eyes off it, and you have to have that little car. Eventually that little car turns into that big car, and that's how it happened with me. I started off with the little Hot Wheel car, then eventually moved on to model cars, and just growing up as a kid, I mean, I was always into cars, painting them, fixing them, customizing them. And like I said, growing up, I worked with my dad on this, and eventually I learned how to work on my own on these cars, and how to tune them and fix them and rebuild them and things like that. I'm no pro by no means. I'm just kind of a shade tree type mechanic, but that's kind of how I grew up learning and been doing it ever since. The first vehicle I owned was a 1976 Chevrolet Bonanza, and I loved that truck. My dad he found that out in the farm, and decided, we were going to get that truck for me. So we went out there and got it, brought it home. And I want to say that's when I really learned how to work on cars, because my dad brought it home, told me, there's your truck. It's up to you to fix it. So I did. I tinkered with it every day, got it going. He'd come out and help me with it, where I get stuck and stuff. But, I love that truck. I think had a 427 engine in it. Rear end was lower geared to handle the power on that motor. A little bit lower than this truck. And, man, it was such a fun truck to drive. It was originally green and white, or a two-tone green. I don't remember the exact color. And we ended up painting it white. And I put the little shades on the lights and stuff, and had put some chrome wheels on it and everything. I mean, it was a really nice truck. And then, unfortunately, being a young kid, you mess up your cars, and that's what happened with it. Ended up selling it, ended up getting it back, and it just wasn't the same anymore, and ended up just parting that truck out, unfortunately. But a lot of the parts off of that truck were donated to repair this one. And part of the tailgates, actually, I turned into a bench on my porch here, so, so that was my best truck. My favorite truck right there was my first one. This truck's been with us for, almost over 40 years now. My dad bought it in '75. He used to work at a company called Lubbock Manufacturing, and there was a car lot right there in the corner where he used to work. And one day he drove by there, and this truck was sitting right there in the little corner, and he decided he had to have it. And by golly, he ended up coming home with this truck one day. He said he was going to go get it, and he did. And, I still remember that day. I was a little kid. I was outside playing in the yard, and he pulled up in this truck. I was like, man, Dad, what happened to the other one? He's like, oh, I had to have this one. And, it was with us ever since. And then in 2014, 2015, roughly around there, my dad decided that he wanted me to have this truck. He didn't want it to go nowhere else. He wanted to make sure that the name on this truck was my name. So he insisted that we go and get that done. So we did. And about a year later, in early part of 2016, it's when he got really sick and stuff. And he ended up passing away in 2016. Oh, really 2015 is when he got bad, and then he passed away in 2016. The truck sat for a while. I'd started working on it when he was still around. I didn't do a whole lot to it. And then when he passed away, the truck sat in my backyard for like nearly 2 years. I dragged it back out of my shop, put it off to the side. It just sat there. I didn't want to do nothing to it. And then I started back on it, brought it back in, started working on it again. And about 3 years later, then my mom got sick. She came down with cancer and stuff. And then she ended up passing away in 2019. And I did have the truck running at that point, but it wasn't street legal or nothing. It still wasn't painted. It still wasn't lowered. There's still a lot of stuff I needed to get done with it. And after that, my mom had passed away. It sat again. It didn't get pushed outside, but it did sit for a while. And then, I don't know, one year I decided I needed to finish this truck. So I got back in the shop, got back on it. And, my family supported me. They told me, you need to get that truck going. Your parents don't want to see it sitting there like it is. And they were right. You know, I needed to get it back on the road and try to get it back to its glory days. And, you know, with the help of my son, my daughters, and everybody, you know, we all kind of jumped in and, you know, did what we could on it, and got it to the point where it is now, you know, finally. I think my mom is probably turning over her grave, though, because she never liked lowered cars, and to see her truck lowered a little bit, I'm sure she didn't appreciate that, but, you know. But, yeah, that's pretty much how I ended up with this truck, so. When my dad handed me this truck, though, you know, those years ago, the two front fenders were completely rotted out, couldn't save them, so I ended up having to salvage some new fenders and replace those. Passenger side door also was in need of some work. We'd already replaced it, you know, my dad and I, but we never did finish the body work or anything on it, so we had to get that done. The rear quarter panels were rusted out really, really bad, so I had to do body work on that. Interior-wise, same way. At one point, my dad wanted to paint this truck gray, which I'm glad we never got to that point, you know, but the interior was painted that color, so that's why now it's not longer, you know, the orange color in there. It's actually a white now, but like I said, we got plans to change that later. As far as the engine and everything else goes, I mean, it's still the same. It's untouched. You know, I haven't done anything in there other than maybe put a new breather on it and change the oil. That's about it. I did, like I said, I did put a 2.4 drop on it. And then the wheels, you know, swapped out the wheels that had the old rallies on it when I got the truck. And I did have a set of torque thrust wheels on it one time and ended up getting these instead. Other than that, the truck's pretty much stock like it is. That's been the work I've done to it so far, so a lot more to go. I think what motivated me to keep on this truck was the fact that I just didn't want to see it sit there anymore. You know, like I said, my family kind of pushed me to get back on it, and you know, I did this kind of in memory of them. You know, this is a piece of them. It's something that I know I need to keep going and keep working on, and you know. And for me, you know, just like my dad handed it down to me, this truck is going to get handed down to my son. And then hopefully, you know, he'll hand it down to his kids. You know, that's what we want to do this truck. We want to keep it in the family. And, I mean, that's been my motivation, is just to keep it running, keep it on the road, keep it looking nice the way my dad wanted it to be. So, you know, I think he'd be happy to see how it looks these days. As you can tell by the trophies, I do take this truck to car shows and stuff, but, you know, it is a daily driver. I take it out, you know, on sunny days. You'll see me cruising around town, see me going down the highway. It doesn't stay parked in the garage too often. You know, I like to drive this truck, so I've been to several shows. I think my first car show was in 2021. You know, I did a couple of shows then, not too many. I was still trying to learn the scene and stuff. And then eventually I started learning how to really get into them and really start doing car shows. You know, but it's not a daily driver, but it does get driven everywhere it goes. You know, it's only been trailered once to a show. Other than that, I've driven them to every show I go to. So, you know, as you can see here, I have won a couple of trophies. You know, this was my third place trophy that I got. The rest are like a top 20, top 30, and my recent one's a top 40. You know, I was really surprised I got that one, actually. There was so many beautiful cars there, I couldn't believe it. So, but, you know, I enjoy going to the car shows. You know, I've met a lot of nice people at these shows. I mean, it's been one of the best things in my life to be able to go out and do this. As far as my family goes, like I said, I already told you, this truck is going to my son. You know, he took part in fixing it, so he has not gone to any shows with me, though. He keeps saying he's going to. My oldest daughter, she's been to a couple of shows with me. Actually, she was there with me when I won these first two. So, you know, that was fun to be with her to win those. My wife's gone to a couple shows with me. We've done a lot of truck meets, and my wife's gone with me to those as well. So, you know, they've kind of been into cars, I guess, also. Probably not as much as me, but they get into it. You know, I've built up, obviously, you heard the story on my 76, you know, my high school truck. Another truck that I had was a 1970 Chevrolet pickup. You know, my dad and I, we bought that truck and several years ago. We had that thing for, I want to say 11, 12 years. It took me about 8 years to actually get it to the point where it got. You know, my friends and I, you know, and my dad and family, you know, we worked on that truck together. And it was a wreck when I first got it, but you know, we ended up painting that truck red. I had redone all the interior on it, new carpeting, aftermarket seats, new dash, you know, that reposted myself. I went to 3 motors in that truck. You know, that's how much fun that thing was to drive. It turned heads everywhere it went. You know, I lowered it, not quite slammed, but it sat a lot lower than this one. It was a long bed also, and that was probably, you know, one of my favorite trucks right there. I actually was building that truck to be a show truck, and you know, I was having a lot of issues with it. And you know how it goes, sometimes you get frustrated with your cars and somebody comes along and they just catch you at the right moment, and that's what happened with that truck. You know, they caught me at a weak moment, at the right moment, and ended up selling it. And unfortunately, you know, it's just one of those regrets I have. I wish I could get that truck back, but you know, it's gone, you know, so it is what it is. You know, this truck took its place, and, you know, I'm actually surprised that the way things turned out. You know, that's just the way, you know, that's just the way it was supposed to be, man, I guess. So, man, when I drive this truck, I feel at ease. I feel relaxed. I feel at peace. You know, there's nothing like getting behind the wheel of an old truck like this and just going down the road and forgetting all your worries. You know, there was a time when I used to feel sad and stuff when I drove this thing, but not anymore. You know, this truck brings me joy. You know, I enjoy driving it. I love driving it, actually. And, you know, I'm at peace. You know, you get out there in the open road and you just forget about everything. You really do. You know, I don't worry about nothing. You know, I just enjoy the drive. That's what I do. You know, I think one of the biggest things is you know, if you want to start a project, go ahead. You know, start it. It's going to take time. It's going to take money, you know, and I know a lot of times you have one and you don't have the other. Be patient. Stick with it. You know, this truck, like I said, I've had it almost 10 years in my possession, and, you know, so far it's gotten to this point, and, you know, I'm still a long ways to go, like I said. You know, but just keep going. You know, it's like with anything else. You know, stay with it. Don't give up. You know, follow your dream, follow your heart, do what you want to do. I'm Luis Mora Jr. This is my ride. This is my story.
Man, nice. I got a YouTube channel. We're making a video on his, and he said, "Hey man, look at that truck."